So let's talk about the Battlefield 2042 beta. Today is Monday. The beta ended yesterday morning. My brother and I were unpleasantly surprised hopping on Sunday night to play and realizing the beta ended on Sunday morning, which for a beta, I don't think I've ever seen. I just find that crazy. Like they come up with the beta for the weekend and you end it on Sunday morning when you know people can play all throughout Sunday. Whether that was a strategy thing or just random select, I don't know. That just seems so odd to me. But anyway, let's talk about the beta because as far as video games goes within the shooter franchise, there's not a lot of big franchise go-to shooters other than Call of Duty and other than Battlefield that release games pretty regularly, right? Battlefield doesn't release obviously annually like the Call of Duty franchise does, but the games they make can really hold and can really sustain the length of time that the games last, right? Like the Battlefront series, other than some issues within that, they were very fun games, very well done games. The Battlefield series that they've done, very, very good games, and they last for the period of time. You could play them nonstop. I know guys that still play the World War Battlefield. So playing this game, I was really hoping for a good game. Futuristic shooters are not really my thing. I'll be honest. I do actually like the old style of shooters. Or modern style, but I actually prefer the old style. But this game has a lot of promise, has a lot of potential, and I think little things in the beta that you see are making the game look like there's a lot of promise. And let's just say, as somebody who plays video games almost every day for the most part, I'm excited that this game is coming out in just about a month's time, and I think we're going to have a game that's going to last for a long time. That's going to be very good for a long time. Unfortunately, I want to talk about the bad things of the beta because I think that that's important. I think that that's important as far as what the developers see, what the developers, like them pushing out a beta, you hope that they're aware of the issues and you just go on Twitter, you'll see people complaining nonstop. But I think it's better to sometimes talk about the good and the bad because a lot of people are just going to magnify the bad. And you're going to get a lot of angry people too because the reason being, when you release a game in a beta, most people that are playing the beta have bought the game. So if they see some bad things about the game, they're going to voice it, right? And they're going to be pretty pissed. So I haven't actually looked into that. I don't really care too much for getting into the negative of things. I just want to talk about my experience in this video. So let's do that. Let's start with the bad of what I experienced in Battlefield, starting with day one, because I think it's good to decipher the different days that I played and how different the game was. So in day one, I'm just going to go through the list of things that I wrote down here, and then I'll kind of just like briefly talk about them. So floating bodies, dropping frames, hit detection, attachments not loading in after every death, the objective building, and not being able to knock down the building in any way, shape, or form. You should not be able to see guys in an open field. When you're driving through an open field, if he's lying down there for cover, you should not be able to see that guy highlighted, his name highlighted. If you can't see his body, you shouldn't be able to see him at all, in my opinion. One of the classes loading in with 11 and 11, and what I mean by that is when I loaded in with a semi-auto gun, it's actually a very enjoyable gun to use. It had 11 in the clip and 11 in reserve ammo. And unless you have backup ammo, unless you can throw down an ammo kit or you're killing guys and you can pick up their ammo, it's just not, I just hope that's a mistake and not something that they're pushing because it's a good gun, a high damage weapon. I hope that's not something that they're making you do. And I think that's an error. I'm hoping that that's an error, but I guess we'll see. Sometimes there was moments where I'd be aiming down sights at a guy, shooting him because he's literally looking at me or he's looking a different direction. And he's literally holding his gun and I'm shooting him because he's an enemy and he's a corpse. Right, so he died, he got killed, and his body's just like standing upright. So that was one thing that was more irritating, but that was constant in day one. The hit detection. There was times where an enemy would be looking up an opposite way, maybe 100 yards away, and I'm hitting my shots on him. My hit markers aren't even hitting him, but he can feel like the bullets around him, right? Obviously, but my hit markers are not being detected. And he would have time to get some shots on me and either kill me or it would allow me to at least get cover when I realized my shots were hitting. But there's nothing more frustrating than hitting your target and having your target not get hit. There's just like, I didn't quite understand that. The attachments not loading in was probably the most irritating because in day one, I felt like every single time I died, I would load back in with no attachments on my gun. So I'd have to go through the selection process, hitting L1, triangle, circle, X, and square to go through the attachments to pick the ones that I needed on my weapon. And the reason why that's irritating, you can probably imagine, you want to be able to select the attachments you want and then spawn back in with them again And if you change them, that's fine, but spawn back in with what you had. The problem with that is you're a lot of times in the game, you're spawning in to combat. You're spawning in to where there's a lot of action going on. And if you have to take those few seconds to put your attachments on, that is make or break in those moments. So that was just one thing that drove me crazy. Now, after sounding like a real a-hole and talking about the bad of the game, I think it's good to emphasize the bad, because as long as you're doing it in a constructive way and hoping for change as far as like a game comes, right? Oftentimes you'll hop on Twitter, you'll hop on any other form of social media, and you just see people whining and complaining. And I get that oftentimes comes out of frustration, knowing that a game's been built for so long and seeing these issues that they shouldn't be happening. I think it's good to bring up the good and bad of games in a constructive way. And I'm hoping that, the good thing about the bad that I experienced is in day 2, I experienced almost none of those. Other than a few small ones, like semi-auto gun is still having an 11 and 11 in the clip. That was in day 2 as well. The fact that I feel like there could be more emphasis on kills and assists, that was in day 2 as well. Maybe that's something they'll never change. I actually did feel like that about the last Battlefield anyway. So that might not be something we see at all, but I can live with that. Those are just little things. But I know that I'm being nitpicky, but I do feel like it's important to emphasize the issues that I had. No, and especially knowing the beta is potentially a game that could have come out 5 months ago. I'm not overly concerned. I do feel like the serious issues that I experienced, the fact that they were already fixed in the second day, I don't think we have too much to be concerned about, but I still think it's important to bring it up. So the good of the game, there's way more good than bad in this game. The map they put into the game was very, very open. I like maps with a little bit more maps that involve and force you to be a bit more involved in gunfights. That's just something I prefer. This map was very open, so it catered to a lot of long-range gunfights, a lot of vehicle use, which is not necessarily bad if you like vehicles. I just prefer a little bit smaller and a bit more force into you having gunfights against other teams. The attachment system in this game, the way that you hit L1 and you can put your scope on with triangle, you can put your clip on with circle, you can put your muzzle on with square, and you can put your grip on with X, I believe it is. Yeah, your grip on with X, okay? How that animation comes on screen and how smooth it is to scrub through your options, it's tremendous. I think that is going to be the future of how we play games. Like the fact that, even still in Call of Duty, you have to create a class. Like once you're in a Warzone game, you can't just change your attachments, right? That's just not even an option. And I like the idea that you can change your attachments. I think it is the future, and it's kind of weird because it's like Battlefield 2042. It's a futuristic game. The way that the way they deliver the attachment system, I think it is the future. And other games might not adopt this idea, but the fact that Battlefield is a good sign, because this game with that attachment system changes the way you can engage in gunfights, close, medium, and long range. The movement is very, very good. It's Battlefield movement, right? You're gonna experience more realistic movement for sure. But playing around with the sliders, the day I was kind of blessed. The day I hopped on, my brother already figured out the sliders. So he was like, "Hey, here's the sliders. If you play with just the normal sliders, you're gonna feel like sludge running around." So I was like, "Yeah, I'm not interested in that." So I took the sliders and then I altered them a bit to my liking. Once you can figure out the sliders, there's a ton of guys that are already way ahead as far as that. You can find the sliders easily, especially for when the game comes out. There's going to be so many videos on what you can do to increase your movement, your sensitivity, and all that, and adjust that accordingly. Once you find that sweet spot for what works for you, you can make it feel extremely comfortable and very specific to your playstyle. And that is going to change the way you enjoy the game for sure. So just find what works for you as far as the sliders go. I'm sure I'll have a video down the road on what works for me, and I'll be able to go over that more with you when the game comes out. But once you find what works for you, the movement is absolutely amazing. Very, very good movement in this game. The driving seems very good. I don't want to go back to the negative too much, but there was one situation where I was driving one of the trucks, and I think I got hit by a vehicle or something. I got like sideswiped by a vehicle. My vehicle is spinning, and it threw me into the water. It was right at the end of one of the matches. It threw me into the water, and my vehicle's just spinning nonstop. And I'm just like, what's going on here? It didn't happen any other time. Other than sometimes you'll hit a rock and your vehicle will just flip crazy amounts. It just seems like gravity's just taking you, and that's what it seemed like. But again, that's just little things that I think they can fix with little updates. The guns that they give you in the game, once you get your attachments on, a lot of the guns perform at a very high level. And I don't know if that's something that they intended for it or if that's something they're going to balance out eventually. But I feel like the guns all worked very, very well. You could almost get away with using any weapon at any range as long as you have the correct attachments on there, and they seemed very usable. Again, that's just my good and bad of the Battlefield 2042 beta. in the end, again, most of these issues that I've talked about were in day one. And then when I played day two, I didn't have really any issues at all. And I felt like this game, if they can continue to fix these issues and implement all the things that they've guaranteed that this game is going to have, I think there's a lot to look forward to, and especially with the Battle Royale coming out next year. I think this game is really going to challenge the Warzone franchise, the Vanguard game that's coming out. Between the two, I'm going to be playing them a lot, and I just look forward to seeing what Battlefield does, because this game I am definitely far more excited for than what Call of Duty is releasing this year. We'll take a look and see what they can do with it. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. There will be way more videos to come covering Battlefield, and I just look forward to playing this game, streaming this game, and creating content around this Battlefield 2042 game. Thank you for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the next video. Take care.